Sorry, my computer froze there for a second. How you doing, Coach? Do you get the sense that your defense is, still pretty tight together? It feels like, even though there were some plays on Saturday that I'm sure you'd love to have back, it seems like the scheme's kind of holding up. But I wanted to ask about the handful of big plays that Minnesota had and what you thought may have triggered those.
Yeah, I thought the kids played a pretty good game, other than a couple big plays like you mentioned. Right now they're playing really solid defense. The last few weeks, they're about, we talked to the guys, and you're 5 plays away from being, really, really good defensively. We talked about we need to get those 5 plays back. We need to figure out a way to not let those 5 plays happen, and then also we need to get the ball back a couple more times. And if you do that, then you're playing some really good football. As good as you can, you're gonna have a chance to win every football game. As far as why the plays happened, we just had, we had the front set wrong one time. We had a guy out of position another time. So it was more communication. It was more just a mistake that really the two on the 2 run plays, the mistakes that happened just never really happened, and they did on that one, and it can't happen. But that's up to me too. I got to get those guys to make sure that they never make those errors and setting the things wrong. But you're 100% right. If we can find a way to limit those a couple big plays and get the ball back a couple more times, then we're really rolling.
Parker Gabriel, Journal Star.
Hey, Eric, I know each game's different, but the first 4 weeks, you guys were one of the worst statistically outputs on third down, and now the past 3 weeks, you've been one of the best in the country. Is there something that explains that turnaround, or what has gone better for you over the past 3 weeks?
No, I think I think there's a couple different factors. Number one, probably getting in less third and shorts, which really helps you. But the guys have done a great job on the third and shorts that we've had of operating, and I think the guys have a really good understanding. Right now, I know Sam talked about scheme, but they're feeling really comfortable in the system right now. We've kind of finally got the guys where they need to be. Probably, and once again, that's probably. I needed to get them in some different places earlier, but they're where they need to be right now, and guys are understanding what they need to do, showing some different looks and how the looks work together in the third down packages, whether you're going to show pressure and drop 8, or whether you're going to show coverage and bring some pressure. And they're also doing really well in the man coverage. Another huge piece in that third down puzzle is the pass rush is not always, sometimes you look at pass rush and you only look at generating sacks, but when I look at it, obviously I want to get sacks every time too, but when the pass rush is working together and that pocket's getting collapsed and that quarterback doesn't have an opportunity to run, that was hurting us a little bit earlier in the first part of the year, where we'd have some good coverage downfield and the quarterback was running for about 50 yards a game in the first 4 weeks, and we've limited that down quite a bit. So that's a contributing factor too. But there's a lot of factors that go into that thing, and I just think that they've been addressed, and the kids accepted the challenge that was put in front of them, and they've rose up to that.
Mitch Sherman.
Hey, Eric, how'd you feel Saturday for Cam Taylor-Britt, who's now had to miss a full game this year because of 2 penalties? And is there anything that you can do that you haven't done to try to prevent that, to guard against it? Just what's the strategy moving forward to avoid more of that?
Yeah, we sit around and talk about that, and I talk to some other people, around college football. It's a tough situation. I mean, the kid declares himself as a runner. That play, and once again, I'm not arguing calls. I'm not complaining. Those officials have a hard job. But that same play happens 5, 6 other times in that same game, but the guy wasn't wearing a quarterback jersey. So when the quarterback gets out and runs, we've just got to be ultra conscious of taking our head out. I thought Cam led with his shoulder, and then we had some head-to-head afterwards. But, the replay I got in the booth, I was like, man, they're going to call this thing because that was the replay they got. In real time, I think the officials did a good job. In real time, they did not throw a flag, and then it got buzzed down, and they decided it was one upstairs. But, the unfortunate nature of this thing is it's really hard to be physical out there right now when you're worried about those hits. And what's going to happen is you're going to have to go ultra low, and unfortunately, there's going to be a lot more skill players with season-ending injuries. There's going to be a lot of ACLs. There's going to be a lot of those types of things because guys are going to be forced to go low all the time. And I think you're opening up more issues on safety, player safety, than you have already. I think there definitely need to be some player safety things addressed, and I think that they've addressed them, and they've done a good job with that. But I think now it's becoming so common to get a targeting foul that there's going to be other player safety issues that are going to come up because of it. But the bottom line is we're going to have to do a better job of tackling in the strike zone and taking our head out of the football play.
Sean Callahan.
Hey, Coach, on a short week, when you watch Rutgers and their coordinator, Sean Gleason, it looks like they do a lot of trick plays, gadget plays. How hard is that to prepare for with one less day? And what have you seen? I mean, do they typically do a few of those every game?
Yeah, they've got a pretty wide array of football plays, and whether you call them gadgets or tricks, but there's a lot of things where they're trying to take advantage of some schematic situations. They're going to make you defend 11 on 11 because they're going to run the quarterback. Some quarterback insert plays, whether it be power or counter, and the running back going the opposite way, which is kind of a new fad in college football. But they're going to make you defend the whole field, and they're going to make you use all 11 players. Thankfully, we see a little bit of that with our offense as well. So the principles behind it aren't new to our guys. Maybe the specific looks are something we need to get dialed up on the field and then walkthroughs. But the principles behind what's going on out there is not a complete shock to our guys. They've defended triple option football a lot, which this is becoming. It's people look at it as, I don't know, RPOs to me is triple option. There's still a dive, there's still a quarterback, there's still a pitch. He might be a slant, he might be in the curl, he might be in the flat. They're just doing more stuff. It's quarterback counter with the pitch player. It's quarterback power with the pitch player. So our guys have done a good job of adjusting to what we need to adjust within our scheme. But there's a lot of things that you need to be ready to defend, and your eyes have to be super clean, kind of like playing Purdue. You never know what you're going to get. Coach Brom has a ton of stuff that he likes to throw out there every week, and your eyes just got to be really clean. You got to do your job.
A couple more for Coach. Andy Kendi, KETV.
Hey, Coach, how has Garrett Nelson progressed this year compared to last year, and how much progress has he made?
Well, I think last year, obviously as a true freshman, he was, playing a lot off. He was learning football, but he was playing a lot off just, sheer will and intensity and those types of things to be out there and play football. I think he's done a really good job of developing his technique, developing his knowledge of the football game, learning what we need him to do specifically and taking the coaching and bringing it to the field. So I think his development has come a long way, and I think he's nowhere near playing the best football he'll play because he's so young. I think he's a true sophomore. He's got 2 or 3 years left that he can play, depending on what happens with this crazy year. But I think there's a lot of development in his future, and I think that he is a good football player. He's going to be a really, really good football player, if not a great one, by the time this thing's all said and done. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to work with Garrett.
Ryan Christopherson.
Hey, Eric, want to ask you a quick recruiting question with tomorrow being signing day. How tough in this cycle was the evaluation process, just with all the restrictions and stuff? I mean, as you kind of get to the end here, how would you frame up what this year's been like from a recruiting standpoint?
It's been just like everything else, it's been challenging. And, we sit here and talk about how hard the recruiting is, but I know there's people in the country that are facing a lot worse stuff than we're going through. Just not being able to meet kids. So I can't complain too much, but everyone in this recruiting cycle, hopefully you've met these kids at some point in time, and for the most part you do. But it was probably once when they were a junior or even younger. Without being able to see them recently, you just don't get to physically put your eyes on what they look like as they've matured. You don't get to sit in a room and talk to them and really find out about them. Now, there's been a bunch of Zooms and those types of things, and obviously talking to their coaches and everybody around them. But the real truth of the matter is there's going to be kids around the country at every program that are probably going to sign a scholarship letter that have never been in a room with a coach. And, it is what it is. It had to be that way this year, but that's a little scary. I don't think any of us would probably marry somebody that we only met over Zoom, but some of that's got to go on, and it's just a necessity by the situation in the country. So it's been a challenge to get to know kids, and it's been a challenge for the kids too. Some of these guys are going to sign a letter of intent and go play football somewhere that they haven't been on campus, or maybe only been on campus once. So it's a scary thing for all parties. But I think that the coaches and the players have made the best of a unfortunate situation, and we all had to do the same thing. So.
Thank you.
Last one for Coach Chinander, Steve Sipple, Journal-Star.
Yeah, Coach, rule aside on Cam Taylor-Britt, what effect does that have on your defense when he's out? And, is there any concern you have in the booth about the impact it has on the kids when he's unavailable now?
As far as what, Sip, you talking about just their makeup or their how it affected them mentally or scheme-wise, or?
Yeah, how it affects you scheme-wise, but also mentally.
I think this is mentally first. I think this is a strong group. It affected the game severely right there. We gave up a long play, and then we got to stop. They were going to come out for a field goal. It was going to be 14-13. Our offense was going to have 2 minutes left with 2 timeouts. All of a sudden, they get that penalty, and we get a new fresh set of sticks, and they end up scoring a touchdown, and it eats a minute off the clock. So you're potentially talking about an 11-point swing. So that was a crucial moment in the game. As far as mentally, I think the kids were upset more upset that Cam had to not, or that he doesn't get to play the rest of that game. Our kids have been great. They've been pretty resilient. They haven't backed down. So I think they were more upset for him, and they started playing for him. And as far as schematically, it doesn't really do much to me other than just making sure guys are in the right spots and who's. It's more about getting your depth chart ready about if you lose somebody else, where do you go from there, who's going where. But scheme-wise, we get a lot of practice with our twos, and I have a lot of trust in Quentin Newsom. He went in the football game and played a good football game after Cam Taylor was out. So you practice what you practice. We can do some things to help out a guy that gets in there that maybe we don't feel great about, but I felt really good about Q coming in there. So we didn't change a lot schematically, but the mental part of it, it's hard for Cam and it's hard for the kids, but I thought they fought through it pretty good.
With Reimer out, Henrik got a lot of action. How did he hold up in the middle?
He played a really good football game, and hats off to Nick for playing outside backer and then back to inside backer and then basically becoming a starter in that game when Luke got knocked out. So I thought Nick did a tremendous job. He was physical. He played hard. He got us in the right things most of the time. I thought he had a good football game. I think the future's pretty bright on that one. But you talk about Luke being out. we need to take a look at that hit also when the guy lowers his head on Luke, So
Yeah.
definition of the
happened?
rule is the definition of the rule.
Yeah. Gracias.
All right, thank you, Coach. We'll have a couple players here in just a minute.